There is no sweeter feeling in life, let alone sports, than the rush of emotion that comes following the conclusion of a hard-fought victory. Whether it's after 9 innings or 60 minutes or whatever the duration of the contest is, even as an average Joe, the thrill of competition is hard to beat. So I can only imagine the jollies that a professional athlete must get when their wins at the highest level not only come with copious amounts of fame and glory, but also with massive financial incentives. Think about Joe Flacco. The guy won like one thing once. And the following offseason, he signed a contract that pretty much ensures that his family will have generational wealth until the end of time. And it is pretty much all thanks to that one big victory. But that's all part of the deal. When you are talented enough to compete in professional sports and you are willing to let your heartbreaks as well as your triumphs take place on a grand public stage for the entire world to see, well, there can be some pretty sweet perks that come in the deal when you finish on top. I think it's interesting though, while most professional athletes are multimillionaires, many of them 5, even 10 times over, even with all that wealth, there's one piece of jewelry that remains coveted by damn near all of them. And no amount of riches can fill the void when you don't have it. Just ask Charles Barkley. That piece of jewelry, of course, would be a championship ring. While it may come as a surprise to NFL and NBA fans, championship rings actually originated in and are unique to North American sports, because traditionally only one championship trophy was awarded by the league to the winning team, and not a slew of medals like in many of the professional soccer leagues and other European sports leagues overseas. The championship rings are distributed in lieu of a medal, and they not only serve as a collectible memento for the actual players and team officials to keep for themselves and commemorate their victory, but also as a very meaningful symbol of where they stand in the history of their sport. Nowadays, championship rings are at the forefront of damn near every sports debate. Whether it's ridiculing LeBron James for only having won 3 in 8 trips to the NBA Finals, celebrating Tom Brady for having 6 Super Bowl rings and 9 appearances, or even pondering how many someone like Patrick Mahomes might accumulate throughout his career, provided he stays healthy and continues on the track he's on, it's tough to complete a discussion about the all-time greats without someone bringing up rings. And if you look back, this ring culture, as many people love to call it, didn't always exist. Rings truly used to serve as more of a piece of personal memorabilia, and that was it. But as the financial stakes have gotten higher and higher in pro sports, and the organizations are investing more and more into their teams, the way that rings are viewed and the actual rings themselves have undergone quite the transformation. So let's take a look back at the origin of championship rings and how they became a staple in North American sports, while we revisit some of the more memorable ones throughout the years, as well as the bizarre stories that always seem to follow this treasured piece of memorabilia in sports history. It's widely believed that the first team to issue championship rings to its players were the 1922 World Series champion New York Giants, following an epic victory over their crosstown rivals, the much reviled New York Yankees. While it's unknown what happened to many of the players' rings, as they have either been lost in the annals of time or only exist as family heirlooms, one of the 22 Giants rings actually made it into circulation a few years back. A family member of MLB Hall of Fame right fielder Ross Young, who was an integral part of the Giants' victory in the World Series, had his ring up for auction. While the bidding started at $10,000, it eventually sold for nearly $60,000, which just goes to show how crazy people are and have always been about championship rings. Even with the excitement surrounding the Giants players receiving rings, it didn't really become a widespread tradition across Major League Baseball until the 1930s. As a matter of fact, the following season when the New York Yankees stole the title back, the players' fingers were left empty. Instead, they received pocket watches, which was not an uncommon way to celebrate a title before the Giants' victory in '22. In the early 20th century, MLB players received a wide assortment of keepsakes for their victories, depending on the ownership group, of course. Some teams issued pocket watches like the Yankees did, but there were a bevy of other options in play. It could be tie clips, cufflinks. There are even claims of some teams issuing special branded shotguns to the players. Wouldn't that be a scene nowadays? Imagine Robert Kraft handing out diamond-crested shotguns to Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Anyways, just because MLB and New York Giants have found themselves at the center of the championship ring origin story, and they seem to get all the credit, doesn't mean that they were necessarily the first team to get in on the championship ring action. There was actually another team in a different sport that got into the mix early, 30 years earlier than the Giants and Major League Baseball, but it took place north of the American border in Canada, all the way back in 1893, and it tends to fly pretty far under the radar. Back in 1893, when the Montreal Hockey Club won its 7th and final game of the season to bring home the Dominion Hockey Challenge Cup, which would evolve into the Stanley Cup over the years, the club's owners decided to create custom rings for the team to celebrate the victory. And to say that the championship ring had humble beginnings would be an understatement of epic proportions. Montreal's ring looked like a beat-up wedding band with a haphazard inscription on the inside and the team logo on the front. While I'm sure they were nice at the time, these rings were a far cry from the luxurious, bordering on over-the-top rings that we have seen in recent years, like the one that the Toronto Raptors received after winning the 2019 NBA Finals. Toronto's championship run marked the first time a team not based in the United States won the NBA Finals, and after 24 years of waiting, they were ready to celebrate in grandioso fashion. The face of the ring features 74 diamonds, which represent the total number of wins it took to make their championship aspirations a reality. And of the 74, one in particular stands out: the oversized rock square in the middle of the Larry O'Brien trophy on the face of the ring. Raptors ownership clearly spared no expense in the design and productions of these magnificent rings. With the beautifully accentuated Toronto skyline and the 16 natural rubies that run along the outer edge of the ring, along with the jersey numbers and its own slew of diamonds, these rings were phenomenal. And the 2019 Raptors championship ring was actually a record setter in a variety of ways. The rings featured the most total allotment of diamonds of any professional championship ring, with more than 640, as well as the largest total carat weight, which came in at a whopping 14. I remember that one oversized diamond, the one featured in the Larry O'Brien trophy proudly displayed on the front of the ring? It's the largest single diamond in any professional championship ring, coming in at a whopping 1.25 carats. Not to mention that the owners showed some national pride by sourcing all the gold and diamonds used to create the Raptors' 2019 World Championship rings from Canada. It shouldn't come as a surprise that these extravagant rings were not exactly cheap, as they were valued at around $150,000, which only further proved that the Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban was wrong back in 2011 when he floated the notion that championship rings were done and futilely attempted to convince his players and coaches to go with something non-traditional to commemorate their victory. But what may come as a surprise to you, unless you are deeply entrenched into the auction circuit, is that the Montreal Hockey Club ring, yes, the one that was all dinged up and only decorated with a couple of hockey sticks crossed on the face of it, well, that dingy old ring sold at an auction for well over $50,000. I get that it's a piece of sports history and whatnot, but that seems a little bit pricey considering the condition and composition of that antiquated piece of jewelry. Interestingly, the championship ring that has become one of the most famous in all of sports, the Super Bowl ring, didn't become a fixture in professional football until 1967, following the AFL-NFL merger, when the NFL championship transformed into an early version of the Super Bowl as we know it today. The Green Bay Packers, who won that first Super Bowl, opted to purchase commemorative rings for the players, and like the Montreal Hockey Club, they kept it rather simple. It was a plain bronze-colored ring with a single diamond in the center of a football with the words World Champions engraved across it in all capital letters. And when they defended their title the following season, they upgraded to a green football in the center of the ring, now sporting 3 diamonds instead of 1. Talk about luxury. It really is hard to imagine championship rings having such humble origins, especially after seeing how they have evolved over the years. It seems like every year, whichever team wins the Super Bowl is on a mission to one-up the winner from the year before. When the Packers won the Super Bowl back in 2010, their ring had more than 100 diamonds on it, 13 of which made up the Packer logo smack dab in the middle of the ring, one for each title the team had won, including its NFL championship victories that date back to 1929. Then it was the Patriots taking it to the next level in 2014 when they had Jostens, the luxury jewelry manufacturer, make rings that reportedly cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $36,500 each, which made them the most expensive rings that Jostens had ever produced at the time. It's not uncommon for Super Bowl winners to instill these hidden messages in their rings, like the Packers did with the 13 diamonds in the logo. When the Patriots completed their now infamous 28-3 comeback victory over the Atlanta Falcons, they were sure to design a ring that featured 283 diamonds in it. Falcons owner Arthur Blank did not take too kindly to it either, as he eventually confronted Patriots owner Robert Kraft in a champagne problems feud of epic proportions. Having played in 8 Super Bowls since the turn of the century, the Patriots have found themselves on the other side of the story too. The Philadelphia Eagles rings to commemorate their insane 41-33 victory over New England, Super Bowl 52, have a pretty unique wrinkle hidden in the 127 diamonds that are featured on the bezel, which is a sum of 30, 88, and 9, the jersey numbers of the 3 players who handled the ball after the snap on the infamous Philly special trick play that really swung the momentum their way. But I guess with all the success that they've had, Kraft has to let the other owners have some shine too. It's pretty insane to think about what a fixture the championship ring has become in North American sports. Mere minutes after the championship is won and the celebration is had, the primary discussion shifts to ring talk. What will it look like? How many diamonds will it have? Perhaps most importantly, what will it cost? Man, would I love to see the look on some of those Montreal Hockey Club players' faces if they only could see what these championship rings look like today. Which is your favorite championship ring in sports history? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to do that by hitting the subscribe button down below. If you liked the video, then hit that like button. We'd really appreciate it. And last but not least, don't forget to tune in to TBS every single day for more cool videos. We'll see you next time.